Are we ready to start? Oh, okay. And maybe he's coming. Good evening. Ready? Okay, good evening. Welcome to the City of Columbus Plan Commission regular meeting. It's Thursday, May 13th, 2021. And I'm going to call the meeting to order at this time. Can we do a roll call, please?
Sure. Piker,
Here.
Lewis,
Here.
Trashler,
Here.
Arnold,
Here.
both Bastian and Highland are excused tonight.
Okay, thank you. And the meeting has been noticed in accordance with state statutes and local ordinances. The next order of business is to nominate and appoint a chairperson for the Plan Commission.
I would offer maybe we table that until the next meeting when we have a full body. If that's a possibility, unless
Well, that's fine as long as Mary's okay leading the meeting.
she would have to lead the meeting tonight, though.
I would need to do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a thought, since there's, you have 4 of the 6 here, and could be
I'm fine with that. I'm
different
fine
people
with-
that may want to step up other
Yes.
than me or Paul. So, like Uriah would be a good candidate for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Uriah, just to clarify, Uriah was the chair, just with his term was up and we accidentally didn't reappoint him. So he's gonna be reappointed at the next council meeting, but in their interim, technically he can't participate. So.
Right.
On June 13th, he will be.
June 8th, I think.
Yeah, our
Oh,
next meeting,
right.
he'll be.
Yeah.
Part of the plan commission,
So
so.
I would make a motion to table the nomination and appointing of a chairperson to the next regular plan commission meeting.
So technically, do we need to appoint a chairperson just for tonight's meeting?
I don't think you have to appoint a chairperson. I mean,
Okay.
because I don't think you have to do it tonight. You
Okay.
can run the meeting.
All right. If everybody, are you
Unless-
okay with that, Paul?
Matt or Kyle has another opinion, but I didn't think so.
No. Okay. So in that case, I'm looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda with the tabling number 4
Okay.
as the change.
I'll second that.
All right, so it has been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda for tonight with the exception of nominating and appointing a chairperson at the next meeting of the Plan Commission. Is there any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. So we need to, the next most order of business is to approve the minutes from the March 11th, 2021 Plan Commission meeting. So,
I'm having issues with our cameras, is that not like? It was working for the last. It was working for the last meeting. What camera do I need to be on? So go to those options. There we go, okay.
okay, that's okay.
In the chat, the video wasn't working and I didn't know,
Okay,
I wanted to make sure that was fixed. So, thank you.
so let's see. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the March 11th, 2021 Plan Commission meeting.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from 3/11/2021 Plan Commission meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, so it has been.
The agenda, I'm sorry.
We did. We approved that with the exception of number 4, where we were going to put that off until, that's okay. So thank you, Eric. It has been approved and seconded to approve the minutes from the March 11th, 2021 Plan Commission meeting. Any discussion?
I'm going to abstain from that vote, as I was not a member of the commission at that time.
Okay. Any discussion at all? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, so going on to number 7, citizen comments. Has anyone signed up to speak tonight?
Remember, also, they can also speak on items, the 2 public hearings that we have tonight for the rezoning and for the, 3 public hearings, excuse me, for the comprehensive plan, for the rezoning, and for the TIF district. And
Okay.
they can speak now if they have I guess more of a general comment, but for each item, they can speak at that time.
Okay. And so, so shall we just go to the different items and then have public comments
I
then?
guess I would ask if anybody doesn't want to speak.
Okay, in general, is
I
anybody?
don't see anybody in the chat that
Okay.
So
And are there any citizens here tonight who wanted to speak at this point? Okay. So, unfinished business, I'm not sure what that is.
there's no unfinished business for the evening.
Oh, good.
It's general practice when you look at our agendas, usually we leave unfinished business on all
Okay.
city committees and commissions, so just following that format.
All right.
There's nothing tonight for unfinished business.
So then we'll move on to new business. And the first item under new business is a public hearing regarding the proposed project plan, boundaries, and creation of tax incremental district number 6. And there was a public hearing notice published on April 29th, 2021, and May 6th, 2021. And would this be a point at which someone may wish to speak?
Yeah, what we could do though, and I think would make sense is if Greg Johnson from Ellers, who's on the call, would like to just give a brief overview of the
Okay.
project plan.
That sounds good.
Much like he did for the previous meeting for the
Okay.
Joint Review Board. Greg, I'm gonna allow you to share the screen again if you would like to walk us through that.
Sounds good, thanks, Matt. Good evening, everyone. Before I go through the project plan for TID District number 6, I thought I would just kind of briefly explain how tax incremental finance districts works, because that'll provide some background and context for what we'll be talking about with the project plan for TID 6. So kind of up on the screen is kind of a graph that kind of illustrates conceptually how tax incremental finance districts work. So TIP districts are an area that have a defined boundary, and they're required by statute to consist of whole and contiguous parcels. So when we'll look at the proposed boundary for TIP district number 6, we'll see where that defined area is for that district. So each district is required to have its own defined boundary. So if we look at kind of the example here on the screen, there's 8 parcels that are shown. That could form a TID district because they have a contiguous boundary. You're allowed to cross the street to go from one parcel to the next. So when a TID district is formed, all of the existing parcels within that TID district have an existing value, an existing taxable value, and that's what's referred to as the base value. So at the time the district is created, the base value is established based on the value of those parcels as they stand today. All of the taxing jurisdictions over the life of the TIP district will continue to collect their share of taxes on that base value just like they do presently. So the city, county, school district, technical college, all continue to receive their share of tax revenue on that existing property value just like they do now. So that does not change. The financial benefit of a TIP district to the city occurs when that base value appreciates, either due to just general inflation or more notably when new development occurs within the district. So as that value increases over the base, that's what's called the incremental value. And the city retains the tax revenue on all of that new value or incremental value that's generated. So they keep the city's share, they keep the county, school district, and the technical college's share as well. And they use that money to pay for expenditures within the TID district on eligible project costs that are incurred to help promote and increase the value within the TID district. So a TID district is ultimately a partnership between the city and the other taxing jurisdictions because they're agreeing to forego their tax revenue on new development to help the city utilize that tax revenue to pay for project costs within the district. And then once the district has generated enough value to pay for all of its project costs, the district closes and all of that tax revenue returns back to the tax rolls and all the taxing jurisdictions benefit. So whether you're in a TIP district or outside of a TIP district, you pay the same tax rate. There's no difference in the tax rate that you pay. The only distinction is where that tax revenue goes. So again, the tax revenue that's generated on the existing value that's there now goes to all the taxing jurisdictions, just like it did before the TID district was created. If there is increase in value due to new construction or appreciation in value of that existing property, the taxes on that increment value get retained by the city to pay for project costs within the district. So that's just kind of fundamentally how tax incremental districts work. They're really the primary tool that municipalities use to promote development and redevelopment within communities. It's a way to capture that tax revenue from that development and redevelopment to help pay for project costs that are incurred within the district. So that's just kind of an overview of kind of how a TIF district fundamentally works. So in terms of kind of talking about the existing district that's before you, or the proposed district that's before you this evening, this is Tax Incremental Finance District number 6. And this really consists of areas within the downtown core of Columbus. So back in 2017, the city and the state made significant investments in the infrastructure within the downtown core along James Street that really provided a significant investment into the downtown area. The primary objective of this TIF district is to really continue that investment and encourage redevelopment within the downtown area. So we'll speak to some of the specific project costs that the city's identified within the project plan, but it's really to try to encourage some redevelopment, specifically encourage some restoration of some residential units within the downtown area, some broader facade improvements, some infrastructure improvements along Dickinson Boulevard, and gives the city the opportunity, if it presents itself, to acquire some property and redevelop it. Although there's no immediate plans for that to happen at this point in time. So that's the primary objectives of the TIF district. In terms of the area that we're talking about, there's a map on page 7 of the project plan, and it's up here on the screen. The area shaded in green is really where consists of the proposed boundaries within the TIF district. So again, this really kind of exists within the primary downtown core of the city to try to encourage that redevelopment, reinvestment within the downtown, which is very much consistent with the city's current comprehensive plan and land use objectives for that particular area. So in terms of some of the project costs that the city has identified within the project plan document, those are listed on page 24. And really what the project plan does is it identifies what project costs are TID eligible. This is not a commitment by the city or a budget that the city is adopting that means all of these project costs are going to be incurred. It just means by listing them in the project plan, if there is sufficient tax increment generated within the district, the city can use that revenue from that new development to help pay for these project costs. All these project costs will require separate authorization by the city. So just by incorporating them into a project plan is not a commitment for the city to move forward. That's going to require separate action in the future. So to kind of highlight the project costs, the Dickinson Boulevard improvements consist of the area from City Hall to Amtrak. There's an allowance to kind of improve that street. There's also, as I mentioned, kind of a general allowance for property acquisition, no immediate plans by the city to acquire property. But over the life of the district, if that opportunity presented itself, the city has some dollars and authority within the plan to consider expending funds for that purpose. There's also some general allowances for development incentives. Development incentives are typically provided to a specific project or a specific property. They require a development agreement be executed between the city and the developer of the project or a property owner if the city is agreeing to provide funds to that project or for that property. So the development incentives could take the form several forms. I mentioned restoration of residential units, some grants for facade improvements or other types of improvements that the city may deem appropriate and commit through that development agreement. We've also included an allowance for kind of some surveying and plat updates, kind of been going through some of the existing plats and some of the parcel information. Since this is kind of some of the original properties within the city, There's been, some, platting, obsolete platting and just some items that may need to be rectified over time. So the city has included some costs for that if that needs to be undertaken. And then there's also some general allowances for streetscape and beautification and marketing of the downtown area as well. And then finally, there's an allowance for just some of the administrative costs that the city will incur annually to manage and implement a TIF district. There's annual reporting fees that are due to the Department of Revenue, annual audits that are typically conducted for tax incremental finance districts. Those are TID eligible expenses as well. So the total project costs approximately are $1,940,000 in terms of the eligible costs. And so the plan gives the city the flexibility to undertake different types of project costs that are described in the narrative of the project plan without necessarily amending the plan. So the city does have some flexibility, but this is really the initial primary objectives that the city has identified for the project costs. In terms of just explaining where these are located, most of this is within the district boundaries overall. The Dickinson Boulevard improvements are kind of shown here on the map on page 23, kind of that area in the red box, just kind of shows specifically where that project is located. So in terms of, the financial analysis and kind of what would need to occur for the city to be able to pay for all those project costs that were just summarized, that is summarized in the project plan on page 25 and 20 and going forward from there. So in order to pay for all these project costs, the city would need to see about $250,000 of new value generated between 2022 and 2035. The district has a maximum life of 27 years as a rehabilitation district. We've estimated that tax revenue based on the city's current tax rate for its TID district, and have that declining for a few years at about 0.25%. And that would generate, if that 250,000 of new value is generated from 2022 to 2035, that would generate about $3 million of tax revenue over the 27-year life of the TID. So that's, that could change. If more value is generated, that means more tax revenue would be available to the city. If less value is generated, that means less tax increment would be available. So kind of the key to financial success for any TIF district is to match the pace of investment with the tax increment revenue that is generated. So the city can certainly incur project costs, and if the increment isn't available to cover it, the city would have to cover those costs initially through other means, and then can reimburse itself as tax increment is generated. Preferably, you're incurring those costs as the revenue is available to pay for it. So just to kind of look at the financial analysis that's within the project plan. So on page 26, we list, kind of that modest valuation projections. So if that 250,000 of value, either through new construction or just some combination of appreciation of existing property occurred within the district from 2022 through 2035, that would generate the $3 million of tax revenue that's shown on page 27. So we've kind of been conservative, only really shown some new value through the first 15 years of the district. Hopefully there'd be value beyond that point, which could generate additional value to the city. But, conservatively, that $3 million of tax increment revenue is what's needed to support that $1,940,000 of project costs included in the plan. So on page 28 is a cash flow projection. This kind of illustrates how this conceptually could unfold. Likely won't unfold in this manner. There's going to be projects that may get accelerated or changed. If development happens faster within the downtown area, that could improve, the overall cash flow and performance of the district. But if that 250,000 of value was generated, by about 2025, that would support, a financing for some of the downtown improvements on Dickinson Boulevard. And then we just kind of show how some of those other project costs could be undertaken for various development incentives, the streetscape, marketing, just general administrative costs of the district. So this is an illustration. This isn't a, guarantee or prediction of how this is going to unfold. It just kind of shows conceptually how the city can manage kind of investment within the district based on the tax increment that's available to help pay for it. So really the project plan is kind of here the tool that puts the TIF district, into place that allows the city to capture tax increment revenue from future development to help pay for those projects. So where we're at in the TID creation process is we're kind of at the early stages of this. Kind of the first step was kind of earlier this evening. There was a convening of what's called the Joint Review Board. As I mentioned, really a TIF district is ultimately a partnership between the city and the other taxing jurisdictions. So that Joint Review Board consists of a representative from all the taxing jurisdictions, including the city, and then there's a public member. So it's a 5-member board. They took no official action. They just had an organizational meeting. They'll meet later in the process. The next step is where we are at right now, which is the required public hearing before the Plan Commission. There is a resolution on your agenda. Approval by the Plan Commission is required to proceed with creation of a TIF district. If the Plan Commission decides to recommend or grant approval of the TIF district, the next stop in the process is the project plan gets presented to the Common Council. That would occur in early June. If it's approved at that level, then it goes back to the Joint Review Board, that 5-member panel consisting of the other taxing jurisdictions, and they have the final approval. So even if the various city bodies, Plan Commission and Common Council approve the project plan, the Joint Review Board, if they deny that approval, the TIF district cannot be created. If it is passed at that point in time, the TID district is created, and then it goes to the Department of Revenue at the state for final certification, which is really kind of a procedural review of the project plan. So that's kind of an overview of the purpose and objectives of TID District number 6. Again, to summarize, really trying to provide some tax revenue for the city to invest and continue to invest in the downtown core of the city, which is really kind of consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and land use objectives. And so the TIF is kind of a tool to help further those objectives. So I'll pause there, allow Matt or others from the city to add any other comments before we continue.
I have nothing to add. Did you want to say something, Andy?
I have questions.
Okay.
So I'll start with, I want to know how the city came up with the map itself. What was your thought behind it? When you see the lines, it's all over the place. I know you have to be contiguous and get to where you need to get to. Mm-hmm. But you just see some, it just looks a little odd in some of these locations. Specifically, we're talking about Ludington. You have North Ludington from East Mill to basically the railroad tracks, right? That's your corridor in the city, but you left out that entire side of the street. I know it's all residential, but that is, some of those buildings or houses are eyesores that could really benefit from a TIF district and some of their benefits that you can get from some grants or loans or whatever it may be. So I'm just curious how you came up with that. I mean, especially since that's what everyone sees when they go to the Amtrak station.
Yeah. So we brought this to council in January of this year, and when they approved us to move forward with Ellers with the project plan, there was a map that was in there. And really, from the staff point of view, when we were sitting down and talking about this, we wanted to get from the Amtrak station to the 4 primary blocks of downtown. And as you noted, we did. There are some residential properties in here, but for the most part, we try to not include the residential properties because at this time the focus is really on potential areas for redevelopment near the Amtrak station, maybe some potential down by Water Street or by the maybe the fire station area might be a potential area, but really it was getting to the 4 main blocks of the downtown And that was kind of the mindset, you know, the city is not looking to displace any homeowners in this area. If opportunities arise, we'll consider them, but they're gonna be led by the private sector more so than the public sector. That was our thought when we created it.
So when you were, so that leads, you mentioned North Water Street.
Yep.
You stop at East Mill, there's a house, there's a business, and there's a ambulance depot, and then there's a house. Why weren't the two businesses drawn into this map?
Well, then you would have had to, they would have been basically islands, or you would have had to try to find a way to essentially,
You could have just
Find
continued
a
the
cl-
line up to Whitney and wrapped it back down.
You're right, we could have, but this is what was proposed, and this is what we sent a notice out to the property owners to make them aware. The one thing to keep in mind is we can amend the district 3 times. If there are other projects that are worthwhile nearby, those are something that we can always and always will consider if there's a good project. But this is what, you know, was discussed at council, and this is what, you know, we move forward with Ellers.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Paul, okay, okay,
I have more questions.
okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
When we talk about the equalized value test, did we talk about that yet? Did Greg mention that? I can't remember.
I don't think he did, but I know it's in whatever page it's on, I know it says we pass.
Yeah, so it says you passed and you're at 12%, but I was just curious about how TID 5 plays into that, since it's, you know, really nothing happened in TID 5 yet. So it's, I just want to know how that's being
If you look at
calculated.
Page 14 of the project plan, so there's a limit to the amount of value that can be incorporated into a new TIF district. So that is based off of the, you know, that can't exceed 12% of the city's total equalized value. So it's the increment value of existing districts plus the proposed base value of this new district. So the, you know, existing increment value of TIDs 3 through 5 is about 41.5 million. The estimated base value for this district is about 13.4 million. So 12% of the city's total equalized values, roughly 58.9 million. So the total of the increment value of existing TIDs plus the base value of this district is about 55 million. So we're under that 12% test, and the boundary as proposed can be legally created on that
Sure.
basis.
And then if TID 5 gets bigger, how does that affect the overall?
I think there's two things that are gonna happen. Probably the most notable one is, you know, TID 3 will be closing, you know, soon. So that's
That-
your largest TIF district.
Is that
So
2023 still? Okay,
Yeah, once that district closes, that's, you know, presently 24 million of increment value that's no longer subject to the 12% test.
fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Does anyone else on, any of the other members on Zoom, Eric, or, I guess Eric is it, right?
Yep.
Okay. So at this point, would we ask for any public comments
Yes, you
from
can
anyone?
Start
Is-
to ask for public comments, remember it, 3 times.
So,
Yep.
is there anyone here in attendance tonight who would like to comment on this project? And if so, would you join us at the microphone?
It's more of a question.
Sure.
So, my house specifically.
Do you know how to turn on the mic?
There's a little.
There's a,
You also need to state your name and address for the record.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my name's Tammy. The address is 220 South Ludington Street. It's the house right next to the fire station. So, it's basically a question. So, I overheard the gentleman talk about acquisitions. There's acquisition in the proposal. So, my dad, who is part of living, a resident of that home, was wondering, like, how would that affect that house in particular? Because it's right on the edge. And it shows on the map, it's on parcel 126 or something. right next door.
So it's right, you're saying right next to the fire station?
Correct.
And really, that would, the plan at this time, there's no plans that would immediately impact that property. Obviously, any project that is approved with TID funding would go through, and there would be ample notification if something went through on that property that would impact that property. And it would be something that would be voluntary, that you would be a part of that project and wouldn't be, as I said, the intent of this is not to use eminent domain or other
Right.
measures to actually acquire property. Everything will be on a voluntary basis. That is the intent when we're creating this district.
Okay, so resident, and just one more question. And so anybody that's in the commercial zone that's actually living in a residential home is going to be a part of that process?
Correct.
And it's going to be a joint effort?
It's gonna, I'm sorry.
Like joint?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, if you come and tell us, like, for example, I lost parking in front, which is understandable because the fire department can't see, right? We
Yeah.
had some trees cut down.
Yeah.
So any changes beyond that with your TIF, is that something that we have an option to yay or nay? Or
Well,
no?
ultimately, the elected officials would be the ones that would have, if the TIF boundaries were gonna be changed, is that what you're asking?
No. I don't know, I'm probably not asking my question clearly.
So I think,
Do you,
I think what she is trying to say is, she lives next door to the fire station.
Yep.
If any project was going to happen at that property, you want to know if you have any say in the process.
correct?
Yeah,
So from my understanding, you would be able to come in here, just like a public hearing. You would be able to come to the council meetings and I don't know however many of the processes there are, but
the process will largely depend on what the project would be. If you're going through a rezoning, you'd get a notice in the mail that says there's a public hearing on this date, or if it's a conditional use permit, you'd also get a notice in the mail because you're within so many feet of the property. So it would depend on that. Obviously, if it was a project that was part of the TIF and there was a developer agreement, that you may not get direct notice. But as I said, it's going to largely depend on what the project is.
Okay, all right, that was just the only question
Tammy,
I
do
had.
you have any like specific concerns about what might happen to your dad's property?
Not really, other than, I mean, Dad's been there for 30 years. To have the city come in and say, well,
I
they
don't,
don't want, and I know that's not the intent. I understand that's not the intent. Or is it like, for example, the garage? Does that mean that there's, because if it's an eyesore, if it's sitting on the side, or the driveway? Because I'm also on a shared driveway. So the driveway is also split right down the middle. So it's just things like that for his, for his. I
so
don't know
in
how to
all
put
the
it
years
into
that I've been a part of the city, I've never heard of the city doing any eminent domain, first of all, or even hardly any blighted situations where they're taking over a property or anything crazy like that. I mean, if you're talking about like the garage in the back, that may be bad. Maybe this is, I don't know what can be done exactly in the TIF district with those, you have facade repairs in the downtown, but is there anything available for homeowners in the district?
Not that was included, no. And generally speaking, the TIFs are more for economic development, so having programs for, the residential isn't usually included. And as I kind of indicated before, a lot of the areas that we included in the TIF were areas that, we try to use the bare minimum for single-family homes, so.
Yeah, I think if any project was going to happen next to your dad's property, it would.
You're most likely, it's most likely gonna be at least a conditional use, which means there's a public hearing and you'd get notice of what would be happening. I mean, that would be the most, that's the most common by zoning code, but I mean, it's all gonna depend on what the proposal is.
Yeah, and I think my biggest concern is because it's right next door to the fire department.
No,
You know what I mean?
okay.
So
Yeah, you
that's fine.
definitely don't have any,
No,
you have
yeah,
a
you're-
0 lot line
Yes.
there.
Yes,
I've seen that.
Yeah, so that was all. Thank you. I just wanted to ask those questions.
Is there anybody else here tonight who would like to come and speak about this project?
Mic off or on right now? Kevin Bant with 230 North Dickinson is my address. I have a question whether or not the TID can be used for the city to loan against. I know that we use a lot of our tax money towards debt repayment and debt services. So if this passes, can you then take out a loan and then say, give it to a developer to develop an area into whatever you want, because you're going to change the zoning in my area, so is that possible?
Can you take out a loan to give to a developer? Yes.
As
you
a city.
can. As a developer incentive, you can do that and then have the increment repay that loan.
Can they take out a loan bigger than their tax increment,
No.
more than
Well,
1.9?
Theoretically, you could, but I mean, that's not anything that financially that would ever be recommended to city council.
Right, but
I
they
mean,
could,
But yeah, I guess in theory it could.
sure. And at what point would we be notified of changes to the Dickinson, like the actual plan for the Dickinson Boulevard change?
That would.
'Cause right now,
it'd
it's just a highlighted area on a map.
Correct.
That's not an actual plan.
It would follow our standard procedures for street reconstruction or street projects, and usually there's at least 3 PIMs for those. Most recently, we had them for Hibbard Street, and there's ample opportunity for comments during that PIM process generally it's with our city engineer, who's leading that process.
Hibbard use a TID district for their,
No, it
no,
didn't.
they used,
What, Matt, what's PIM?
Public information meeting. And no, they didn't. For the Hibbard Street project, we were fortunate enough to get a local roads improvement program grant through DOT. But
was special assessments used as well, or just the grant?
special assessments were used as well, and there's a variety of ways that were paid for that. This project, with the TIF district, it's a mechanism that we can use to hopefully reconfigure, redo Dickinson Boulevard.
Which is fine. There's obviously a lot of problems with that. I had experience where we found out the sewer line runs 150 feet this way when it should just go right outside to the front door. But there's no sewer line running there. So, I'm all for the improvements that are needed. Prefer it was taken out of general funds for that. That's what taxes are paid for, is for improvements, not for giving money to developers so that they can change an entire neighborhood. Also, my last question is, has Amtrak committed to development to that area? Or is this being done without any conversation with them?
Well, actually, we're meeting with Amtrak on Friday to discuss where they're at, specifically with, there's 2 things with Amtrak right now. There's the Twin Cities Milwaukee-Chicago route, which you may be familiar with. So that's a regional route that appears to be on track, no pun intended, to start in 2025, I think.
Right.
And that's going to be a really good thing for the downtown area specifically because it's going to add a second trip, and as it sounds, it's a regional train, so it goes between the Twin Cities and Chicago. The good thing about that is it'll provide better reliability than Amtrak does currently. If you go to the Amtrak station at 1 o'clock when they're supposed to be coming in from the west, they're not there at 1 o'clock all the time. So I think that will be a good thing to have some flexibility at that Amtrak station.
I guess a final comment is just because they're more reliable, it won't turn Columbus into a destination. It might just be a pass-through. So what incentives are they going to have to improve this stop? What is the expectations from the city towards Amtrak? Because it's their property, correct?
They rent the line.
Okay.
It's owned by Canadian
Canadian
Pacific, so they're tenants on that rail line.
So then technically we need to, Canadian Pacific to allow improvements.
We're not proposing any improvements to the rail line as part of this TIF, though.
Right, but the whole purpose of rezoning that whole area, I'm sure, is to
There's gonna
have
be no
improvements.
There will be no rezoning for this. I mean,
It's
pretty
right
much the zoning in this area is all central business district. Even a lot of the single-family homes in there are zoned CBD1, which is central business district.
Right, but our house goes from single-family to mixed use, so, in this map that was put out.
Okay.
So
And that's
there is
the-
rezoning planned for
Well,
aspects here.
the current, land use, which is going to be talked about later for the comprehensive plan, shows that area all as mixed use as well. So the plan that is up for discussion tonight, and hopefully will move forward, is basically kind of carrying that same vision forward.
Okay, all right.
And does anyone else wish to speak tonight?
I'm Darrell Cromer, and I live at 126 and 128. I'm right across the street. So I own one of those buildings. So I want just some discussion about the Dickinson Boulevard project. Clearly, the pavement is years past due. So I'm assuming infrastructure and everything that goes along with that. Is there anything in that part of it, any thinking right now with any of the businesses, buildings, or anything down there other than the road for the Dickinson portion of this?
We do have a kind of a preliminary concept that I don't even know if it's been brought to council yet, that has been discussed, I guess, somewhat at the staff level, where the Dickinson reconfiguration really would be a slight widening. So it's a 100-foot right-of-way there.
Right.
So it's much wider than your typical right-of-way in the city. And so it would be, we would probably widen the street a little bit, not very much. You wouldn't really notice it. And then obviously reconfigure the angle parking from the plans I saw. Because right now it's 14-foot wide stall, which is, I mean, too wide for, I mean, even when you
Yeah,
go
but
to
it's wonderful, but keep going.
well, I mean, I'm not saying we're gonna go to 9 feet, but I mean, 14 feet is 4 feet longer, 4 feet wider than is required by our plan. our
I
zoning code.
understand.
So we could theoretically have more parking in there. I'm not saying we want to cram it in there at 9
No.
foot widths, but.
If you do the math, you can only get a couple more stalls
Correct. It
anyway.
would go, I think, on the block between James Street and Mill, I believe right now there's 35 or 6 stalls.
About that.
And going to about 10-foot widths, you get about 9 more. You get up to about 45.
Right.
So, I think the other improvements have been, that have been thought about is obviously putting a terrace back in there. If you look down out there, there's, on the first block here between James and Mill, it's all pavement. So putting in, whether you maybe extend some of the redbud trees up this way, or you put grass in there, actually have a terrace, that's a concept that's been discussed. Once again, I shouldn't be getting too far into myself. Any project like that would have to go through the public involvement process and council approval. But, I mean, conceptually, that was the thought, was having, retain the parking. There was a study that was done that showed it more as a pedestrian space. I think there will be some design considerations to make sure, like when you have Redbud Days and other events, that we can close it down. But I still think for the 95% of the time, it's going to be used like it is out there today with the parking and the traffic going through
With
there.
pedestrian traffic going curb to curb across it, because that's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
I get to stare out the window and see that all day long, as do some of you.
Yeah.
So
Me, yeah.
putting an obstruction down the middle might not pass muster with the folks. But I was just curious. I'm all for, so far, everything you've said, but is there anything else that goes along with just the curb-to-curb
Well,
issue?
the sidewalks would be considered part of that project. I mean, the pedestrian walkways is.
Sure.
I mean, one of the things with the Dickinson project that I believe is critical is when you go down to the Amtrak station right now, it kind of lets off at the end of Dickinson for the most part more than it does over on 73. So that is more the way it welcomes people into our community. So thinking that if the Dickinson Boulevard ends up being the welcoming for the Amtrak and redoing that, and then the other thing is the need for it, because the street is it's to the point where I think it does need some repairs. I mean, you know, I know there are others in town. I mean, I'm sure you could find plenty, but, you know, it's an opportunity. So, and I think it's an opportunity to make an improvement that will help the downtown area.
Okay. I just really wanted to know where your heads were right now. All right. I really don't have anything else.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question, Mary, or comment. So basically, right now, this is an estimated project list.
Yeah.
So one thing could happen on here, 0 things, or everything on here could happen, potentially, as a part of the project.
That is
As a part of
correct.
the estimated project. There are things that could happen that aren't even on here or even thought of yet.
But if there are things that aren't listed on here that we haven't thought of yet, we would have to come back.
Have to go to redo this whole-
Amend the project plan.
Correct.
And Greg, could you speak to a little bit, would we have to do another public hearing if we amended the project plan, or is that something that the council could handle, or the joint review board handle that?
Yeah, there's two types of amendments that are allowed in statutes. So what's called a project plan amendment, which typically when you're dating project costs, or if change you want to, you know, the project plan allowance for the project costs to undertake some different initiatives. You can amend the project plan for that reason as many times as necessary. A project plan amendment requires the same approval process as a creation. So joint review board approval, public hearing before plan commission, common council action. And then there's boundary amendments. You can do territory amendments up to 4 times, so adding or subtracting territory, and that also required the same process. So move money between some of the projects listed, or even undertaking some of the other projects described in the narrative of specifically in the project list without going through a formal amendment. But typically, you know, if you start exceeding the expenditure authority that's outlined in the plan, that's when it's really a good practice to go back and amend the plan and get approval. So, you know, the joint review board and others are, you know, understanding that you're undertaking some additional costs.
So Greg, I have another question. So you have modest value projections for development assumptions. I mean, you're talking, you said modest, $250,000 a year. You know, theoretically, right now there are no projects planned as far as in development that would bring value to the TIF at all, right? And with that being said, I mean, timeline-wise, when would you even have enough money to do a project without borrowing through the TIF?
So there's always a 2-year lag between when a district is created and when the first revenue is generated. So any construction activity that occurs or increase in value that occurs in calendar year 21, which is the first year of the district, that doesn't generate tax revenue until 2023. So whatever is constructed in 21 gets valued as of 1/1/22. That is used to determine how much tax increment is collected in 2023. So, you know, there's always time that it takes to get kind of a TIF district off the ground. So, you know, the city can undertake any of these project costs, you know, as soon as the TID is created, and it can be a TID eligible expense. But if that increment's not there, you know, the city needs to fund it through other means and can get reimbursed as the increment's generated. But that's where, you know, when I made the comment, the key is to kind of match the pace of investment to the level of tax increment that's generated. That's the key to, having a TIF be financially successful. So, yes, there's not like an immediate catalyst project that's happening within the district at this point in time. But I think the city wanted to put a tool in place, so in the event that starts happening, there's tax increment revenue that can be used to help further the objectives of redevelopment within the downtown.
All right, and then on that same estimated project list, project IDC, developmental incentives, restoration of residential units. Could you describe what that is? Because I thought that's what I was referring to with Tammy.
No, I can jump in there. That's
Okay.
something, so in the downtown, the mixed-use buildings that we have, there are approximately 83 units, give or take. And about 34 of them right now are basically not even habitable. So one of the goals is to help revitalize the downtown is to get more people living down here. So one of the goals is to hopefully try to get some investment into some of those buildings, especially the uppers, and hopefully get them back to the point where people are living in them again. So that's what the concept is for the development incentives are under C. If that makes sense.
Andy, did you have anything else? Nope. Okay. Is there anyone else here tonight who would like to make a comment or may have questions?
I'm on Zoom and I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
First, Andy, thank you for asking a lot of the questions that I had addressed online. I appreciate you jumping in front and doing that. But I did have questions because of what the city is looking to undertake, and I'm still going to be totally upfront. This borders for this doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why residential is included. I don't understand why some residential is included but not others. I didn't really get the explanation either, that the council talked about it. I guess I would like further explanation on that. Now might not be appropriate. My other question though is, how are you going to let these owners know that this is available? What type of educational sessions will be available, and how will you be making sure that you can tap into all of this? Because there is a lot of activity going on in the downtown area, and I guess I would hate for us to do another report, do another study, and then all of a sudden we spend the money and there's no action being put out into the business community. The other part of that question is, if there is revenue available, it did state that there would be marketing expenses that would be put out into marketing the downtown area. Who would be in charge of that, or would that be something that would be essentially pushed over into tourism because they equal heads and beds?
Good questions. Can you identify yourself, because I can't see you on my screen?
It's Paula Steiner. Mary.
Okay, I thought I recognized your voice, Paula. Thank you.
As far as the marketing, you're right, tourism would be the likely entity to oversee that. The other option would be the Community Development Authority, would be the other city entity that would be able to oversee the marketing efforts and maybe develop some sort of marketing plan for the TIF. As far as the boundaries.
Matt, what is the Community Development Authority doing right now? Because from my understanding, they've been kind of stagnant. So are they back up and running and functioning?
Yeah, we meet the third Monday of the month.
Well,
And
meeting is one thing. I guess I'm just looking for what type of actions are being performed by the community.
well, they have the facade program that, they helped with Home Expressions facade improvement, and as well as the D&G small service repair on West James Street, that we helped with that facade improvement as well. It's a small program that we're kind of getting off the ground right now, so that's one of the big things. And the other program that is the city loan fund. So when we went through the CDBG close program, we are receiving funds from our old loan and when those funds come in, those funds are defederalized and then they are being put into the city loan program. So those are really the main functions right now of the CDA.
Okay. Well, and then I guess residential, I specialize in residential, and I looked at this map and I cried a little bit because there were some inaccuracies and, some properties that were included, that weren't included, the concern about the resident who lives next to the fire station. It looks like that could have been easily cut off and those residents could have been avoided. So I guess I'm just kind of trying to figure out where the rhyme or reason came.
So my understanding, that was a decision made by council, that's what you said earlier.
Yes.
So this question would be better addressed to council, not to the plan commission. As far as the why, I mean, I can't answer that.
You know, and with the base value approaching up close to the, where it was, to the 12% rule, you had to, you couldn't just put a blanket over the whole area and just, say that's gonna be in the TIF. So the values also played into this. As I said earlier, trying to get from the Amtrak station to the downtown was the primary goal.
Yeah, and you answered my question as far as, because I was curious about those properties on North Ludington, that's our corridor, but if item C does not really, go along with the restoration of residential units, it's really for the downtown, apartments upstairs and stuff, maybe that, that makes sense, but, yeah, I mean, I agree with Paul, there's some definitely weird boundaries here that, it just makes you wonder why this one, why you had some houses that are in there, why some aren't, especially when there's not, any businesses attached to them or next to them, so. But that's, I guess I'll have to ask the council that question.
All right, and then one last question, because there are residential properties tied to this, if one of those residential properties was to sell, would that negatively impact the sale of that home? Or is there any type of disclosures that would need to happen in between that transaction?
It shouldn't impact the sale at all, and really, you're not gonna even notice when you get your tax bill. I mean, I don't believe it says on your tax bill if you're in the TIF district. Really, the homeowners will not and should not, reckon or realize that they're in this district. And I've never heard of having to have a disclosure on a real estate transaction for a TIF district.
That's something Greg knows.
Greg, yeah, maybe Greg can elaborate.
No, I agree with your response. It's nothing that needs to be disclosed, and even on the tax bill, it's nothing that has to be identified, because, again, you're paying the same tax rate whether you're in a TID or outside the TID. It's just how that tax revenue that you pay gets distributed to the which taxing jurisdiction, and so it's nothing that gets disclosed.
Do you have any other questions, Paula? Okay,
Gosh, I think I'm good for right now, but thank you for asking.
sure. Is there anyone else here to?
I have a question.
Yes.
Shelley Albright, I live on East Prairie Street. I'm not really in the TIF, but I am a resident, so. My first question is the properties that have been sold downtown already on James Street, the embroidery shop and the, is it the Black Belt? Is that gonna, because those are new sales, is that gonna be in TIF? Or are they, because they've been sold already, not be added?
Well, it's the properties themselves are in the TIF district.
Okay,
How the sale of that property would impact their assessment, I think that's a question for, maybe Greg can help, but as I understand it, it's the value, we're gonna be creating the TIF district before September 30th. So that means the value is gonna be the value of 2020. So
Okay.
if there's any natural growth because of that sale, the TIF district actually is gonna capture that.
Okay.
And coincidentally, if the CDI grant is awarded and they go through with their $500,000 renovation that they've planned, that would be another thing that would be helpful to the TIF district, because
Right.
if you're making that sort of a renovation.
Right.
you-
And that's
it-
where I was going with
yeah.
this. So then my next question is, because we do have historic buildings downtown, and owners can potentially, whether they get a grant or they get, some kind of loan or whatever, are they going to be held to historic, to have, make the accommodations, towards historic guidelines?
Depending on what they're doing, they will need a certificate of appropriateness before they can get any sort of like building permit, As far as that goes, people may elect to try to go for the historic tax credit program as well, but that's a voluntary program. But I mean, really, the discretion of the historic preservation, due to code, is largely going to be based with HLPC.
Okay. And then what about the building on the corner that is empty, across from Charles? Is that potential for the city to potentially buy that, or?
This would give the tools to do it. As Andy said, yes, the city has looked at that in the past, and I hope to look at that again. And
Okay.
this will give us maybe a better opportunity to do it. So.
All right, and my last question, as far as the fire station, because there's tons of plans to put that out towards McDonald's, is there any kind of pre-planning what you would do with the old fire station, and whether or not that could be improved and used for some other purpose, or?
Yeah, when we went through the roadmap plan, I think the architect for the plan didn't really think that building could be retrofitted. I do think, though, that in talks with our police chief, that maybe that could be something that could be retrofitted for our police department, potentially.
Okay.
So I don't think adaptive reuse for that building for a city purpose is off the table. But, that also, because it's city-owned right now, so the base value for that property will be zero. So
Right.
that's an opportunity for the TIF district to generate some increment.
Right. All right, and it is one of the more older buildings, so that's why I was wondering about it, so, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is there anyone else tonight who would like to,
I have a few questions, it's JD.
oh, okay, JD.
I have a few questions on Zoom, it's me, JD. Yeah, they're very simple. It would make sense to not have to go through amendment, but that Water Street down to East James, almost to Uni Dam, should just be in this TIF district. There is development that's gonna happen there, why are we not including that? The council ought to look at that, that's contiguous, that's an easy slam dunk right there, down to Nathan Roberts' buildings. I don't know why that's not included. You see what I'm talking about, Matt?
Oh, you're talking down to, you said
Yeah.
Udi Street, right?
Yeah, it won't go, you can't go clear to Udi because there's a strip of houses there, and then Herman's have their
Yeah.
properties back in there, but that piece there that's got, that's blighted to the hills. There's been people look at that before, but they're like, hey, what can we do, and there's no money available. You know which ones I'm talking about, because you got like, you got Water Streets, you got Big Mike's, and you've got, I can't remember the other ones, and then you have all of those buildings down there that are the painted crates in there and whatever else right there by Waterloo Street and East James. That one's easy. Why aren't those properties in there?
Looks like they are.
Not the map I'm looking at.
On the green map, it's not.
No, it stops basically at the Second Ward Creek.
Oh, they're on the other side, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They weren't included in the TIF district when we had this initial discussion. I mean, I guess that's.
I mean, your equalized value, you got about, what, Greg, like 4 million or million to play with there. I was looking at it. That's the only question I have there. The other one is, because you're gonna be doing facade grants, you're gonna be doing those, why can't we put an overlay map of the historic district, because that state historic tax credit's pretty lucrative for those TIFs, or for those, facade grants, and they
Yeah.
count slam dunk, it's just easy money. So can we put an overlay district map over there to show the historic district in this TIF plan like I've seen in other ones?
Sure.
And that's the only questions I have.
Thank you, JD. Anyone else?
Hi, Matt, this is Eric on Zoom. I just want to make sure we didn't miss it. There was a comment in the chat, if you want to look at that one.
Yeah, and I guess, I don't know if Amelia is still on. I know we talked about Dickinson Boulevard at length with one of the questions earlier. I don't know if there was anything I missed. I don't know if she's still on. Oh, okay. Any other?
Anybody else here tonight want to ask a question or make a comment? Anyone else on Zoom interested in commenting tonight? And I can't really see, can you?
No.
Okay, so,
Well, here.
is that it?
Ask one more time. I
And-
mean,
Okay.
I don't see anybody talking, so.
One more time, anybody wish to get up and ask a question or make a comment about this proposed project plan? We'd love to hear from you.
I don't see anybody talking on Zoom, so.
Okay.
I think we're.
Well, thank you, everybody who did comment. We really appreciate your interest and your concerns. So the next item on the agenda is consideration and possible action on the resolution designating proposed boundaries and approving a project plan for tax increment district number 6, City of Columbus, Wisconsin. And I did have it marked here in my packet. Is it customary to read the entire resolution, or?
For my experience, no.
Okay, so,
I mean, if you want, we could do a motion to waive the reading of the resolution,
Okay.
but I don't think that's necessary.
I think we've had so much discussion about it
Yeah.
tonight. People are aware of what we are talking about. So I am looking for a motion.
So I guess I just want to comment with the conversation we've had tonight about the boundaries of this TIF. Is it prudent to send these questions back to council?
I don't know.
They certainly could. I guess the one, Greg, could you talk about the process again? So if we change the boundaries at this time, what would that timeline be? And I just wanted just to know what that would mean.
Sure, and the process of changing the boundaries of the TID district depends on the type of district you're creating. So if you're creating a rehabilitation district like we're discussing here this evening, one of the requirements was that a letter had to be sent to every property owner in the proposed boundary of the district. For other types of TID districts, that's not a legal requirement, maybe a good practice, but it's not legally required. So if the boundaries are going to be adjusted to add or subtract territory, you need to reschedule a public hearing and conduct this again, and send a letter to those property owners that are added or subtracted from the district.
Is there any other discussion? Or any other questions? And so, does someone want to make a motion taking action on this resolution?
is supposed to be phrased, so that's why I'm sort of apprehensive.
Read it exactly like it's on paper.
I guess, well, I would think it would be to move that we take action on the resolution, or we move forward with that we, what would be the,
No, it would be, you guys would be approving the resolution. The
so we're
resolution's at the
approving
plan
the
commission
resolution?
level, so,
Okay, so it would just be to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 12-21, resolution designating proposed boundaries and approving a project plan for TAT's incremental district number 6, City of Columbus, Wisconsin.
Do I have a second?
Just to clarify,
Yes.
that's a typo, it should be 2-21. I realize that was in the packet, and I just want to clarify
Okay.
that
So for the record, it's
Correct.
221.
is the second.
Okay.
I will amend my motion to reflect resolution number 2-21.
And now I'm looking for a second.
I'll second it.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution as designated by Alder Pifferone. So is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Oh, roll call, or
Yeah,
do we need
that-
one?
That's
Yeah.
roll call order.
Okay.
Traxler,
No.
Lewis? Eric, unmute yourself, please.
Aye.
Hyfron,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
motion passes 3-1.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda tonight is public hearing regarding the request of ACS RBHS Limited for a zoning map amendment for parcel number 11211 to 1505.65 and 11211 to 1, I hope I'm reading that right.
Yep.
1505.65 from RD Rural Development to R3. And,
I'll give a brief overview of
Yes.
this before we take any questions for the public hearing. So what we have an application here for is, there's a portion of Lot 64 and Lot 65 of the Community Trail subdivision are going to be further subdivided to essentially create 6 lots for single-family house development. And there'll be 2 remnant parcels will be the leftover, which will stay with the current owner of the property. So essentially, this item, C, will help lead to the CSMs that are on the agenda later this evening. I guess really from the staff's point of view, when you look at this area on the future land use map, previously they're adopted in 2009, and the one that's before you tonight, the future land use for this area has all been shown as residential. The rezoning is for a residential purpose, so it's consistent with our comprehensive plan. And working with the developer on this, what they are proposing will meet the zoning code for and create legally conforming lots in the R3 district. So with that, staff is approving, recommending approval, of this rezoning. I guess with that, now we can have the public hearing and then, if there are any comments, please. And the applicant is here. He's been patiently waiting. If you have any questions for the applicant, I guess I should have added that.
so are there any questions for? Okay. I have none. Paul, you have any? Eric, any questions?
None for me, thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, 3 times.
Zoom, who has any questions about the request for the change? And I can't really see if anybody's
No,
asking. So,
It doesn't look like
Okay.
anybody's raising their hand, or they can unmute themselves at any time and speak. so,
okay, good,
um,
good to know. Would you like to make a comment, or?
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
We're just looking to bring some more properties to town, so appreciate the consideration.
Okay. So, I'm going to ask again, would anyone like to make any comments about this proposal? Or this change, rather? Anybody on Zoom? Okay, final time. If you would like to talk about this, please. We're more than happy to hear from you. And hearing no further discussion, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is consideration and possible action on the request noted above. Do I need to read it again? Okay. For a zoning map amendment for the parcels already named from RD Rural Development to R3. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the request of ACS RBHS LLC for a zoning map amendment for parcel 11211-1505.64 and 11211-1505.65 from RD Rural Development to R3.
I second.
oh, great. So it has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Or any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Or should we do a roll call?
Sure, we can do a roll call. That's fine.
Okay, let's do a roll call.
All right, Lewis,
Aye.
Traxler,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Piperone.
Aye.
I almost said Monday, so that's why I had to look up. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm having a brain fart, so.
Okay, so that
Motion passes 4-0.
motion passes. Thank you so much for everyone. And the next item on the agenda is review and make a recommendation to the Common Council regarding application from ACSRBHS Limited for the proposed certified survey map for parcel number 11211-1505.64.
All right, so this is the first of the 2 CSMs, now that the property has been rezoned. And just so we're clear, and it was in the map, only the 6 lots are being rezoned. The remainder, the remnant parcel is staying as the RD. I think that was shown in the exhibit, but I probably should have clarified that during the public hearing. But, so essentially what we have then is 2 CSMs to divide the lots. Staff has reviewed this. There have been a few comments that we're working through, and I think some of them are relatively minor before they would be adopted. Like, one of them is you're supposed to show a location map on this by state statute. I know they're working, the applicant is working through that, but we do have a draft here. This process will go to council on the 18th, and then it will go to council on June 8th for final approval. So there's time to get that in before the CSM is approved, and then once it's approved on the 8th, then the county, or then they'll obtain the mayor's signature and the clerk's signature, and then it will be ready to go to the county for recording. So, any questions on the CSM?
So any questions from anybody on Eric or anyone else? You still looking at it, Andy?
Yeah.
Okay,
Trying to, I might have a question, I'm just thinking about it before I.
sure. We'll give you a minute.
with staff, yeah. And I can, if you want me to bring up what the exact comments were, I can.
So we can. Usually there's a note in here. Well, sorry, in the past I've seen notes.
No, yeah, I probably should have put one in there. It pertained to showing drainage on the property, and some of this will be also shown on the site plan. The other thing is we wanted them to show, there's FEMA floodplain near this site, so we want that to be shown on the CSM as well. And the requirement that was under local ordinance and state statute to show the location insert map were the ones that, the comments that we had. And I know, I actually talked with the applicant earlier this week, and I know they're working on them, but we didn't have it in time to put in the packet for tonight's meeting. And it probably will have it for the final approval on June 8th, with council being, well, I already know what I gave to the council for their packet, so it will be, the June 8th will have the final draft for council's final approval.
So I guess I can make a motion to move this forward to the common council for approval for ACS RBHS LLC for the proposed certified map for parcel 11211-1505.64, pending or contingent on the notes from the city being addressed at the staff level prior to getting to the council for approval.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
okay. So it has been moved and seconded to review and make recommendations to the common council with the, I guess, noted contingency, yep. Okay. So, is there any discussion on this? So all those in favor, do we want to do a
You can do a
roll?
voice vote on this one, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. That one passes. Then the next one is review and make recommendations to the Common Council regarding application from the same group for the proposed certified survey map for parcel number 11211-1505.65.
I'm assuming same
This is-
contingency,
yes,
same issues?
Yes, it's
Okay.
basically the same thing, just on the other side of the street, so.
Okay,
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to recommend the common council approve the application from ACS RBHS LLC for the proposed certified survey map for parcel 11211-1505.65, contingent on, again, staff working through the notes that were identified and before it goes to council for approval.
do I have a second?
I will second that.
Okay. So it has been moved and seconded that we review and make recommendations to the Common Council regarding application from ACS RBHS Limited for a proposed survey, a certified survey map for parcel number 11211-1505.65, contingent on the staff working on the notes as presented. So, any discussion on this or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Okay, great. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing regarding the Columbus 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
So, you can see back here, there's some documents, some future land use maps and the comprehensive plan. This has been ongoing for a while now, and we have a final draft we actually had a plan commission meeting scheduled on April 1st, and unfortunately, we ended up not having a quorum. So due to the 30-day public hearing notice, which we adhered to for this meeting, we, noticed again that we'll have a plan commit, or a public hearing tonight for the comprehensive plan. So I don't have anything formal prepared tonight, but I can just speak generally about the comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive plan is required by state statute under Chapter 66. And you're required to address 9 elements of that impact a community, and it ranges from, agricultural, cultural, natural resources, utilities and community facilities, economic development, transportation, housing, land use, intergovernmental cooperation. There's an implementation element. I'm sure I missed a few others, but usually with the 9, kind of what you do is you go through and break down each chapter, and usually there's a lot of tables and graphs and demographics that go along with that. If you wanted, I could give you a lot of demographic breakdown, because I have them all kind of tattooed to my head now, because there's just a lot of numbers. So with that, we developed a plan. Really, I think the most critical thing when you come to the comprehensive plan, it's the largest impact, and you saw it here earlier, was when we talked about rezoning a property and making sure it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. And that future land use is really the most critical component, I think, to the comprehensive plan, as far as the legal implications of the comprehensive plan. I would just note that, generally speaking, as the staff who prepared the plan, really the future land use isn't drastically different than the past comprehensive plan. Generally speaking, the areas the area where we approved the rezoning and CSMs tonight, or recommended approval, that area kind of west of the developed area, basically the edge of town and in between the highway, that generally that area is going to be mostly residential. Some of the areas maybe along the more busy streets might have some commercial mixed in there. And then your areas off the highway interchanges, whether it be the Highway 16 and 151 or down by Enerpac, are going to be the areas for future commercial growth. And this is reflected in that plan. Both the Highway 16 and the Gateway business area, as we're calling it, down by Highway 73, have a mix of uses. It's going to be some industrial, some commercial, and maybe maybe not on frontage of the main roads, but there's going to be some multifamily probably components into there as well. And that's all displayed under Chapter 7, which is our land use. It kind of gives a breakdown of what each category is. So I guess with that, why don't I just open it up for questions, because I probably could talk. It's 8 o'clock, and it's kind of longer than I thought the public hearing would go so far. So please, if you have any questions, feel free, and I'll answer them. And Andy, I know you were on Plan Commission.
That's what I was
when
going
we
to
first
comment.
started talking about it.
I was just going to say that I've seen this in the beginnings, and we started with the 2035 version. Is that, or is this, or the 20?
No,
No, 20.
Are you thinking the roadmap?
No. The version that was current, whenever that started. I remember
that was the current version that's adopted and that's on the books is the 2030 plan.
2030.
And that's what I've been updating. And you're right, it started in sometime in 2018, but there's been numerous delays and a pandemic in the middle that's kind of it really. Yeah.
So
there's
when
been a
I
lot.
reviewed, when I reviewed this one, it brought back a lot of the memories when we were talking about a lot of those things. So I think everything looks good in my opinion. So I don't have any concerns with it.
And the one thing I'd share is this has been on our website for pretty much the draft chapters, when they've been approved, they've been on our website for well over, well, almost probably going on a year for some of those chapters. And I have not had any comments, one way, shape, or another about the content of the plan, so.
And I have been on Plan Commission for the last, I don't know, 8 months. I don't know what it was, but, and I've seen this numerous times as well, so I have no questions. I'm very up to speed on this as well, so, thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I know that you've worked, I want to thank Matt, because he's worked really hard on this. The one thing, I can tell you, I knew where the comprehensive plan was, because I'm constantly on the website. But I can think that Mary probably remembers when she went looking for the comprehensive plan, she had a hard time finding it. I would like it to have its own tab. I mean, you could find the roadmap pretty easy, but to find the comprehensive plan, you gotta go into planning and zoning, and it was hard. A lot of the people who were asking for information could not find it, Matt.
Okay.
It's a great plan. You've done a bunch of hard work. You should take credit for it. And I think if you said comprehensive plan as the menu item instead of planning and zoning, you would have more citizens see it. I bet you Mary had the old one, because I remember when she read it off, and I had the new one, but I had been involved in it. So anyway, just some comments to that. I think it's a great plan, and I think that as more people read it, and it wasn't easy. You did a lot of work, take your credit. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, JD. I think you make a good point. And I know when I was actually running for office, a couple of people said, well, what is the plan for Columbus? And I think if it were a little more easily accessed on the website, that would be great for everybody.
Yeah.
And I do think this is, I'm very impressed with what you've come up with. I think it clearly did a lot of work, and, so, thank you, Matt.
The one thing I'd say is, I've been here a while now, going on 3.5 years, and I still think, I agree. Have better communication and organization on the website is something that I'm still striving for. And I know I actually have an outline at my desk, but the one thing is work kind of gets in the way of doing that. So that's one of those things where I probably just need to call in sick for a week and just fix it from home type of thing. But, or maybe not call in sick, but, that's fine. No, but, and with the media coordinator now, I'm sure more of the website duties will probably be shared with all the city staff that know how to do it. But, I don't disagree. I kind of know that it's not optimal the way it's laid out, so.
Is there anybody here tonight who wanted to make a comment or had a question for the public hearing? Anybody? JD, thank you for jumping in. Anybody else Zooming with us? Is there anyone here tonight who would like to make a comment? I have to ask 3 times. Anybody in the audience have an opinion? Okay, great. Anyone else here or on Zoom? Okay. Since I don't hear any more interest in commenting, so I think we can move on to H, review and take action on the Plan Commission resolution to recommend that the City Council approve the Columbus 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
And this was 0, because I had this one done first, so that's why I called it 0121, even though it's not sequential in the agenda. Just wanted to throw that out there for
okay.
reference. But essentially, there's two elements when you're going through adopting the comprehensive plan. Essentially, it's, you have the resolution from the Plan Commission, but also at the council level, there is an ordinance that needs to be adopted.
Okay.
It's not an ordinance in the fact that you'll find it in our municipal code. It's more of an ordinance that's essentially more of a resolution than it is an actual ordinance. But I just wanted to share that, and if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I think I'm good. Okay,
I'll make a motion to recommend, I'll make a motion for the Plan Commission to recommend that the city council approve the Columbus 2040 comprehensive plan. I don't have the actual plan number. What did you say it was?
Oh, the resolution.
Resolution number?
It's 0121.
Resolution 0121.
I'll second that.
is there any discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Plan Commission Resolution 0121 and recommend to the City Council that they approve the Columbus 2040 Comprehensive Plan. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, it passes. Thank you so much. And that's the last item on my agenda. So,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
all those in favor, oh, is there any discussion? Oh, I guess we don't need to discuss this.
Well,
I don't
Or
want
do
to.
we?
you could, but I don't
We
think
could, but
anyone-
who would want to?
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
We got 8:11.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone.